Hello, everyone, and welcome to a Puppet video on how to deal with some of the issues around Git and putting up PRs and separating out your PRs, when might be required. My name is Bill Hurt. I'm a developer at Puppet.
And I'm Mike Lombardi. I am also a developer at Puppet.
And today we're going to walk through a PR that does need to be split up just a little bit. And we'll show you how that can be done because we know sometimes that when you put up a pull request against one of our repositories that sometimes we get a little bit picky about how these things need to go, and it's not the easiest thing to kind of satisfy the things that we're asking you for. So we're going to show you exactly how that's done in an example, and to do that we're going to switch real quick over to Mike's desktop, and he'll show you one that we have ready to go.
Okay, so this is a pull request to the Puppet Labs service module that we were taking a look at a little bit earlier today. And so the problem with this PR is that it does a little bit too much. So we use a tool called the GitHub changelog generator, which uses PRs to determine what has changed in a module over time so that when we do the release, nobody has to write a manual changelog. So this is good, but the downside, of course, is you can only really have one good changelog message per PR. So when we look at this PR, I'm just going to go ahead and read verbatim real quick what is written here as the, PR's information. So prior to this commit, querying for a non-existent service using some service managers in the Linux task would return empty values. This commit also captures standard error in status checks to accurately convey that the service is unknown or any other error. So this whole first block is actually really good because this is what modules 9979 is talking about. So we use Jira to track our work. And in Jira, we have our tickets laid out. So in this case, modules 9979 says Linux implementations can return empty results. Okay, so why is that a problem? Well, the desired behavior is if I try to hit a service that doesn't exist, it should tell me that it doesn't exist. I should get some back, any information other than nothing. Right. So right now, if you run the task and the service doesn't exist, it'll just kind of say nothing's there, no problems, no errors, nothing. Which can be nice because it means your workflow doesn't error out. But the downside, of course, is you don't get any alert. So if you're trying to restart a service, if you're trying to restart a service or otherwise act on a service on a node, and that service doesn't exist, you probably want to know that rather than getting an esoteric, answer of nothing. That's probably not a good answer. So the first part of this PR does exactly what we want for this ticket. The problem is it also does this. The quote, this also breaks out service and initctl into their own case statements, as well as fixes a couple of minor bugs around trying to start or stop a service already in the desired state, returning an error. Okay, so now our PR does at least two different things, arguably three. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to work on this PR and get it to a state where we can break it up and merge it. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to come over and look at the commits and see if they're very atomic. So I can tell you for a little bit of background that this is actually going to be dropped. This is an unrelated commit that they added for ease and speed of testing, but it's not actually part of this PR, so it won't be merged with it. This one is the one that we're most interested in because this is where essentially all the work had been done. So we see here that they're making a change to the order of the service managers, which will be important in the next commit. And then we also see here they are redirecting standard error. And we can see all those changes. But then here we see the altering of the case statement in the bash script. So this is a little bit extra work that we don't want included. And then we can see here there's some more redirects, etc. Okay, so that's the first commit. So if we go on to the second commit, here we see the second commit, all it does is undo the change from the first commit where they swapped the order around. So when we go to fix this, we'll actually, this commit won't be necessary. And then when we come forward to this final commit, this one just adds tests, which the tests should go with the code. They shouldn't be in a separate commit. Okay, so all of that being said, what do we do about this? Well, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop open Visual Studio Code, and then I'm going to try to edit things and clean them up just a little bit so that we can move forward. We're actually going to back up over this because I shouldn't have that PR checked out. So I'm going to CD back to here and go. Okay, so now I have the project open in Visual Studio Code. And the first thing to note is that I can look around at it. Before we go any further, I'm going to take a brief aside to talk about some extensions that I have installed. The ones that are particularly important today are Git Blame, GitHub pull requests, and Git Lens. I use these three to make working on repositories in VS Code quite a bit easier on myself. So speaking of the GitHub pull requests extension, let's go in there and let's look at the pull requests that are on the project. And then here I can see actually the PR that we were looking at earlier, 9979, and it shows me all of the changes. I could look at those. So for example, if we wanted to look at the actual changes that we were seeing before, this is the same thing we were looking at in the GitHub UI, just in my local code editor, which is pretty useful for me. This is actually where I do most of my code review. But another interesting thing I can do is I can actually check out this pull request locally. So let me go ahead and do that real quick. Okay, so now note the redirect. When I go into the files that I have locally and I pop open that Linux shell task, we can see that the redirect is here. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pop open my integrated terminal. We can see again that I'm on a special branch, which is actually tracking the PR itself. So if I do git branch
VV, I think.
Is it VV that tells you?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
Oh yeah, see, so then we see actually what I have, what it's tracking. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a copy of this working branch, and I'm going to call it ticket master modules 9979. And the problem that we're trying to fix here is null returns on missing services. So fix null service return. So I'm giving it that name for my branch. Okay, it's a long mouthful, but that's not really that big of a deal here. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do is I am going to go and I'm going to do a little bit of rebasing. So for those not familiar, what I'm doing here is I'm rewriting Git's history. Now, the reason that I'm doing this on my own branch is I certainly don't want to mess up the existing PR. I want to do this in a safe spot. If I totally screw it up, I can't possibly harm anybody else's work. So if I do git log one line, and I want the last 5 changes, we can see what is currently on master in the repository is all the way back here. And then we can see the changes that have been made here, working our way up to these ones. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to do an interactive rebase. So I'm going to do git rebase -i head -4, which will say I want to do a rebase that covers the last 4 commits to this repository on this branch. So like I said earlier, what we want to do is drop this commit because it's actually unrelated. And then these two, we're actually going to do what's called fix up. So what a fix up does is it says, hey, I want to take all of the changes and I want to apply them to the prior commit and discard the commit message. So why are we doing that in this case? We're doing that because one of these just reverts a change that was included in the first commit, and the other one adds tests, which should be there when we introduce that first commit anyway. So we're going to go ahead and do this rebase. Go ahead.
Yeah, it might be worth mentioning that letter F that you're seeing there, if you haven't noticed it yet, just below where he's typing there's a bunch of comments right there. And those are comments that Git puts in there as placeholders to kind of give you a reminder of what you're looking at, what your options are, and what those options mean. So it's really handy. You can just look at them right there.
Yeah, to be clear, I would not retain most of this mentally. The fact that Git always tells me this is the only way I remember.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead, finish my edit, and then my rebase will happen. I have signed commits. Okay, and so now if I do git log one line, and I only want the last 3 commits, now we can see there's master, and then there's just this one commit that was made earlier. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to edit this commit. So I'm going to do git rebase -i. This isn't what I do want to do, is this? I want to do a soft reset, right?
I think so.
Yeah, hang on. No. So now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and we're going to fix this commit a little bit. We're gonna make some changes to this commit, which will kind of break it into more logical chunks that we can use. So the primary thing that this PR that we're going to submit is supposed to do is resolve modules 9979. So all we really care about is the redirect changes. We don't care about the update to the case statement at all. So that being said, I'm going to do git reset head -1. So this says I want to go back in time 1 commit, but I want to leave the changes locally. I don't want to throw away the changes. If you did git reset --hard head -1, we would go back in time 1 full commit and throw away the changes. So that only happens locally, and it's recoverable, but that's just something to be mindful of. So in this case now, when I look at the spec changes here, I see this is all of the added code. This is the new test. So we want to actually accept this patch. Right? And so now when I come and check here, we can see that that has all been staged. This next part is going to be a little bit more involved because there's some changes we actually do not want from the task itself. So if we come into the task, we come down, we look at the change. We definitely do want this first change, right? Because it's handling the redirect, which is what we need. So we're going to go ahead. We can see that change again here in line. This is part of, I think this is GitLens.
Hey, Mike, you want to scroll that down a little bit further
Yeah.
because the button that you're clicking is actually hidden under my camera.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just scroll it a little bit, and you can hit the button, and you'll be all right.
So
A little bit
downwards.
other way, yeah, down. There you go. There you go. Now you can see the little buttons there.
We're actually gonna close this because it looks like it got hidden now. Okay, so this is the change that we want to pull in. We can tell that it's the change we want because it has the redirect on it. So we want to go ahead and hit this plus sign here. This is going to stage just this change. So this is a way for us to stage changes that are not the entire file. We just want to stage. These are called patches. We can stage them just a little bit at a time. So we'll stage this one. And then here's another one that is a change for the redirect. So we want to stage this one. I think the button may get hidden, but it's the same button, fortunately. So this big long change here, we actually don't want. So why don't we want this? This is the one that changes the case statement. This is something that we're going to have to deal with in the next PR, not this one. Similarly, we don't want to edit this behavior either. So it's a little bit confusing because there's the inline change here. Sorry, my scroll wheel's not working. But what we actually want to do is just patch this change. And we want to patch this change. We want this one. This set. This set. And this set. Okay, so the only changes that we didn't pull are these ones right here, because this whole chunk is related to changing how it behaves against the different service managers. So we don't want that. All right, so now if we come over here, we can take a look at the changes that are staged. So we see it's as the tests. And then we can see, move this actually a little bit. It's not covering so much of the space. We see this change is for redirect. This change is for redirect, redirect, redirect. So this change is actually here because when we look at the other staged changes, because it was all kind of put together, it's a little bit hard to see. But one of the important things is that each of these was also, each of these case statements was also grabbing enabled out after the split. So without that being done, we would definitely be missing out on some of the output. So we wanted to make sure that we grab that. Switch back to the staged changes. And again, everything here is just related to the standard error redirect. Okay. So the next thing to do is to make a commit. So now if I do git status, we can see on the line that I have 2 modified. sets of changes and one set of changes that are not staged for commit. So now I'm going to do git commit m modules 9979. And actually what I'm going to do is steal the commit message that was already written, because this was really, really good. So I'm just going to go ahead, steal this. First I'll steal the title, then I'll steal the body. Remember, it's the second paragraph here that we don't want and that we're not taking in this PR. So I'll do this. Now, if you're editing your own PR, you don't need to do this step. However, I'm editing someone else's PR and making a new commit rather than amending the prior one. So what I actually want to do is I want to add a note that says this was co-authored. So this was co-authored by, and I've already pulled up their information so that I can just grab it. So and then their email address in angle brackets. And then co-authored by. This is going to be Kaz. And again, email address in brackets. Okay, so this is our commit message. It's the same as it was before. The only real difference now is that there's a co-author note at the bottom. So now I'm going to go ahead, commit this. Again, not if I could type. Now I do git status. And then git push -u origin Ticketmaster modules 9979 fixed null service return. So I'm going to go ahead and submit this. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and create my PR. I don't need these two anymore. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and create this pull request. We come over to commits. We can see that it gives credit to these two authors as well. And then when we look at the files changed, it's just those changes that we wanted that do the redirect. So now the next thing to do is to come back over here and see that there are checks that are running. So on every pull request to a Puppet Labs module, we run continuous integration testing. And in this case, we run unit testing and we run some static checks, linting, and Rubocop style checking. And we also run our acceptance tests. So we want all of them to pass, of course. But we're primarily concerned in this case with making sure that the patches that we saved are going to pass the acceptance tests, particularly since we added a new acceptance test. It looks like the static check passed. Let's see what's going on in Travis. Travis, we're waiting for builders. Looks like something else is probably building right now. And then this is going to go through the same set of checks, of course.
All right, so this is going to take quite a while. So what we'll do is we're not going to make you, sit and wait for all of these to pass. So we're just going to cut it, and magically, when we come back in just a minute, the tests will be done. So we'll see you in just a second.